The battle arena is set, and tonight, two of cinema's most fearsome creatures will clash in a duel. Today, the battle arena is set for an epic confrontation between two of history's most iconic predators, a fight to determine the superior T-Rex. On one side stands Rexy, the relentless predator from the Jurassic franchise, a creature with a fearsome reputation and the undisputed queen of Isla Nublar. On the other, we have Sue, a battle-hardened warrior with a commanding build, known to be one of the largest and most complete Tyrannosaurus rex specimens ever found. This face-off is more than just a fight. It's a detailed comparison of everything we know about these two animals. We will meticulously analyze their weapons, mass, and physical abilities to determine who wins and who falls. This is T-Rex versus T-Rex, killer versus killer. While they may seem similar, the paleontological evidence for Sue and the cinematic feats of Rexy differ greatly. Every minor nuance will be scrutinized to reveal who holds the advantage in each category. At the end, we will witness a simulated encounter to see how these two titans would react to seeing each other for the first time. Attribute 1 Mass. The Tyrannosaurus rex possessed the most robust build of any land predator in Earth's history. Every historical depiction of the T-Rex, regardless of its paleoaccuracy, portrays a powerful dinosaur with an imposing physique. Rexy is no different. Her design in the films largely adheres to the T-Rex as it was known in the 1980s, specifically the specimen at the American Natural History Museum. This specimen was estimated to have weighed between 7 and 7.5 tons. Rexy's design features very large feet, skinny legs, a thin torso, and a blocky, shrink-wrapped face. For the sake of this simulation, we'll consider Rexy at her prime. Though her weight fluctuated in the movies, a volumetric analysis of her adult proportions places her at around 8.86 tons. Now, how does the paleoaccurate Sue compare? First discovered around 1990, Sue became one of the most well-understood T-Rex skeletons of all time. Having lived into her late 20s or early 30s, this T-Rex was exceptionally large. Modern understanding reveals that Sue was in the highest percentile for size, alongside other specimens like Scotty. Because Sue's skeleton is so complete, a volumetric analysis provides a highly accurate estimate of her mass. While initial estimates in the 90s were around 6 tons, a more recent volumetric survey by Dan Folks put Sue at well over 10 tons, potentially exceeding 11. Sue had a much higher volume than Rexy despite being shorter. She is, generally speaking, about 20% more massive than Rexy at Rexy's highest weight estimate. Sue's skull is longer and thicker, her torso is more robust, and her tail is noticeably more massive. While Rexy is a few feet taller and has a longer tail, her height and lighter build give her a higher center of gravity compared to Sue. This means Sue would be much harder to topple in a wrestling match and would be more likely to force her opponent backward. The edge for mass goes to Sue. Attribute 2. Reach. In a battle between two animals of the same species that frequently engaged in fights, considering their reach is crucial. The one with a superior reach is more likely to strike first and more regularly. Many T-Rex skeletons, including Rexy's, show a myriad of bite marks and battle scars on the skull, suggesting they used their heads as primary offensive weapons. This implies that in a simulation, the two T-Rexes would likely face each other head-on and wrestle. Rexy's design in Jurassic Park features an elongated neck, and at her prime, she is about 10% longer than Sue. While part of this is due to a longer tail, a good portion of the advantage comes from her torso and neck. In a head-on collision, Rexy's height and longer neck would position her jaws to bite Sue's body sooner. Her greater speed would also make it easier for her to exploit this reach. Sue has a proportionally longer skull, and her wide, lower stance would make it easier to access points like Rexy's legs and arms, which are closer to the ground. However, this comes at the cost of exposing the back of her neck and back muscles. In most head-on encounters, Rexy would have more opportunities to strike due to her longer reach and ability to rear up higher. The edge for reach goes to Rexy. Attribute 3. Speed. For two large animals fighting in close quarters, speed is vital for winding up a charge or executing a tactical retreat. The exact science of how fast a T-Rex could run is still debated today. Lighter reconstructions from the 1990s and less precise measurement systems gave a speed estimate of 25 to 35 miles per hour. A speed Rexy was given in the movies. The engine clones in the franchise, such as the Buck in The Lost World and Big Eddie in Camp Cretaceous, were seen moving at close to 30 miles per hour. Even Rexy herself in Fallen Kingdom and Dominion was able to keep pace with a helicopter, suggesting a top speed of over 30 miles per hour. For a real T-Rex like Sue, things are a little different. Since Sue was much heavier than initially thought, her estimated top speed was considerably reduced. A large T-Rex would have traded speed for sheer size as it matured. Modern studies place Sue's speed at 13 to 15 miles per hour for her size and age. This is still a fast walking speed for an animal of her size, but it is nowhere near Rexy's top speed. While there's little reason for either animal to sprint during the majority of the fight, Rexy's superior speed would give her a better chance to retreat if the fight turns against her. The edge for speed goes to Rexy. Attribute 3, Speed, continued. While the 13 to 15 miles per hour metric for Sue's top speed is still debated, some paleontologists have speculated that a mature Tyrannosaurus could achieve faster speeds. Paleontologist and research director at INA, Dr. Laramie, developed a mathematical equation that initially put Sue's speed at 25 kilometers per hour, though this was considered too conservative. It was speculated that 35 kilometers per hour, 22 miles per hour, could be a more realistic top speed, comparable to a fit person running a 100-meter dash. However, these speeds are for a fast walk or a short burst. In truth, there is no real reason for these two animals to run at a full sprint during the majority of the fight, only needing to do so when ramming or retreating. In a defensive scenario, Rexy will have the best chance to pull off a retreat and move to better terrain. For this category, Rexy takes the edge in speed. Attribute 4, Agility. More important than sheer speed when locked in close-quarter combat is agility. The winner of this category will have a critical advantage in targeting vital areas and maneuvering around their opponent. In the films, InGen's Tyrannosaurs have often been outflanked, even by smaller dinosaurs. The bull from JP3 struggled against the Spinosaurus, and Big E from Camp Cretaceous was roughly comparable against the same foe. This stands in stark contrast to the real T-Rex. It is actually possible that some large predators in the same size class as T-Rex could run faster, but this came with a trade-off in maneuverability. T-Rex shares common ancestors with bird-like Coelurosaurs, which evolved to climb and navigate thick forests. In contrast, the ancestors of giant carnosaurs like Spinosaurus and Giganotosaurus roamed open spaces. This is why Sue's hip anatomy is far more optimized for agility than for speed. Put simply, an animal's anatomy that is better for speed must sacrifice rigidity for agility. Whatever InGen did to increase the speed of their T-Rexes might have compromised their agility. This is why a fully grown Tyrannosaurus was capable of making a 180-degree pivot on a single foot, allowing it to rapidly change direction. For comparison, a study found that the real T-Rex was 2 to 2.5 times more agile than Giganotosaurus, despite being heavier. In this battle simulation, Rexy will come to realize just how surprisingly agile her ancestor truly was. For this category, Sue takes the edge for agility. Attribute 5, Senses. It's now time to discuss the attributes that will allow one of these titans to lock onto their opponent, but more importantly, to spot the other first. This is crucial for setting up a surprise attack or making an escape useless. Both animals have an extremely good sense of smell, meaning ambushing the other by pure scent is an even game. The thick pads on Sue's feet and her ability to pick up on low-frequency sounds would make it easy for her to detect Rexy's booming footsteps, while her own movements would be almost undetectable to the ear. However, for actual fighting, the main concern is eyesight. The vision of Sue and Rexy may seem similar, but there's more than meets the eye here. Sue would have a 55-degree field of binocular vision and a highly developed fovea, giving her superb depth perception. Rexy, on the other hand, due to her eye orientation and broadened snout, would have less binocular vision than Sue, though she would have a wider range of peripheral vision. Rexy's eyesight also has an infamous drawback from the franchise: her tendency to key in on moving targets and struggle with seeing stationary objects. This lack of precise vision might explain why Ingen's T-Rexes often flail about, attacking anything within reach instead of focusing on a potential weak spot. Sue's vision, backed by the fossil record, allowed her to act with surgical precision. Fossils show that T-Rexes would bite a rival's tail to disable their locomotion or restrain a Triceratops' frill to avoid getting gored. Rex's more manic strategy would likely land more hits, but Sue would be targeting critical points. For this category, the edge goes to Sue. Attribute 6, Experience. This may seem like an odd attribute to quantify, but if we're going to compare an animal that lived in a natural ecosystem with regular growth patterns to a bioengineered creature in an artificial environment, this discussion is a must. There is a lot of evidence to suggest that Sue was an individual with tons of valuable experience. The most important proof is the myriad of healed battle scars and injuries on her face and body, showing old wounds and fractures. Broken ribs might have come from hunts or fights with other T-Rexes. Fossil evidence shows that T-Rexes would target the tail to handicap their opponents. An animal as old as Sue would have had many opportunities to inflict these kinds of countermeasures against rivals. Rexy, throughout her life, has faced a much lesser amount of larger theropods. It's also important to note that Rexy is legendarily aggressive. Her instinct is to attack any large carnivore, even those physically bigger than her, and she has lost every time she has done so. Only in her later years did she begin to make smarter decisions, like backing off from a superior animal. This knowledge would have been acquired by Sue much earlier in her lifetime. For this category, the clear edge goes to Sue for combat experience. Attribute 7, Intelligence. Before we compare their crushing bite forces, let's figure out who has a better chance of figuring out the opponent's intentions and weaknesses faster. Ingen's T-Rexes show advanced intelligence. Rexy constantly uses her environment to her advantage, such as bashing the Indominus into a building and figuring out that throwing the Giga into another opponent would end badly for it. She also demonstrates complex behaviors, such as testing the electric fence before knocking it down. But what about a specimen that died 66 million years ago? T-Rex had one of the largest brains of all dinosaurs, both in absolute terms and relative to its size. Social behaviors are one of the only concrete pieces of evidence we have, with more evidence of T-Rex cooperating with each other than even raptors. This, along with a lengthy growth stage, means they had more time to learn from both experience and watching individuals in their group. T-Rex bites to the horns of Triceratops and the tails of Edmontosaurus show these predators knew how to disable prey effectively while avoiding retaliation. The common estimate is that T-Rex was as intelligent as many modern predators, such as large cats and birds of prey. For this category, a fair level of intelligence is equally present in both animals, making this a draw. Now, before we delve into their legendary bite forces, let's consider which of these titans would be better at outthinking their opponent. On screen, Ingen's T-Rexes demonstrate remarkable intelligence. Rexy is a prime example, constantly using the environment to her advantage. She bashed the Indominus Rex into buildings and figured out that throwing the Giga into another predator with pointy weapons would likely end badly for her rival. These actions, along with feats like testing an electric fence before knocking it down, show that Rexy and other Ingen creations are some of the smartest animals in the franchise. But what about a specimen that died 66 million years ago? Figuring out the intelligence of an extinct animal is challenging, but T-Rex had one of the largest brains of any dinosaur, both in absolute and relative size. Social behaviors provide some of the only concrete evidence we have, and there's more evidence of T-Rexes cooperating with each other than even raptors. A lengthy growth stage meant they had more time to learn from both experience and from watching other individuals. T-Rex bites to the horns of Triceratops and the tails of Edmontosaurus show these predators knew how to disable prey effectively while avoiding their weapons. The common scientific consensus is that T-Rex was as intelligent as many modern predators like large cats and birds of prey. For this category, a fair level of intelligence is equally present in both animals, making this a draw. Attribute 8, Bite Effectiveness. Now it's time to get to the bloody business and delve into the legendary bite force that established T-Rex as the sovereign apex predator. This fight will feature two very similar bite forces, but the damage inflicted isn't identical. Both tyrannosaurs have jaws and teeth of a roughly comparable size, with an average bite force between 8,000 and 10,000 psi. But what truly determines the most effective bite are the slight nuances in the shape of the teeth. Rexy's more knife-like, serrated teeth were modified by the animatronics team to look more menacing than the real thing. This seemingly frightening look actually hinders her full bite force potential. While knife-like teeth are good for slicing, a study found that real T-Rex teeth were more robust, primarily built for piercing, gripping, and wrenching off chunks of meat. The films ended up nerfing Rexy's bite by giving her the wrong teeth. This may be why most bites from an engine T-Rex are easily shrugged off by rivals. For a T-Rex, securing a firm hold is crucial. Slicing teeth wouldn't hold as well as real T-Rex teeth. Sue, on the other hand, had a superior depth perception that allowed her to pinpoint exactly where to bite for maximum effect. Additionally, a study showed that unlike other theropods, T-Rex teeth differed slightly across the jaw. The teeth in front were for securing a grip, the middle ones punched deep, and the ones in the back applied the most force. While Rexy's superior reach might land more hits, one well-targeted bite from Sue would be catastrophic. The real thing proves once again why nature's authentic product is superior. For this category, Sue takes the edge for bite effectiveness. Attribute 9. Auxiliary weapons. Apart from using their skull for lethal bites, both combatants would likely use their heads as a blunt force weapon. Tyrannosaurus rex was not specialized for head bashing like some other dinosaurs, but their robust skulls could manage respectable forces. The points of contact we'll compare are the lacrimal and postorbital bones forming the brow ridge. Rexy's postorbital bones are pointed, meaning a headbutt would focus the force on a smaller area, yielding a higher psi. By crunching the numbers into the impact force formula, we get an estimate of a hit that inflicts 11,000 psi, assuming she can wind up enough speed and ram her opponent perfectly. Such blows do have risks, especially if she strikes another skull head-on. She'd more likely aim for a soft area like the flank or rib cage to cause bruising or fractures. By comparison, Sue had a much smoother skull. Her point of contact would be spread along a wider area. Even factored in with her top running speed, a headbutt would inflict a lower damage force, possibly up to 4,500 psi. A more tactical approach for Sue would be to leverage her faster rotation speed, using a head-swinging maneuver to bludgeon or parry an incoming bite from Rexy. This could open a way for a counterattack. However, Rexy's ability to inflict greater damage with a perfect charge is undeniable. For this category, Rexy takes a clear edge when it comes to auxiliary weapons. The X factor, relentlessness. This special attribute explains something that may or may not occur in this fight. In the real world, encounters between two apex predators tend to end with one retreating. This was likely the case between T-Rexes. The vast majority of their fights did not end in fatalities, as evidenced by numerous healed injuries on their skeletons. They could kill each other, but they didn't have to every time. Engine's theropods, however, were anything but cautious. Spinosaurus and the Indominus Rex are examples of borderline psychos when they get angry, and Engine's T-Rexes were no different. Almost every time a clone encountered a large theropod, it immediately went on the attack. This is likely due to their unnaturally fast growth rate, which may have caused a genetic imbalance in their pituitary and adrenal glands, leading to heightened aggression and a higher than typical hunger response. This urge to attack regardless of the odds may work in Rexy's favor. While a more calmed, self-preserving animal like Sue might retreat after a clear loss, a borderline psychotic Rexy would not. For this category, the edge goes to Rexy.